What's up, Peter?
Happy happy Friday, Miami. This is Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant, I'm also founder of Miami Condo Investing Club. You are watching Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast with myself and my co-host, who is the moderator, no one else but Daniel Hernandez from Compass Real Estate. His office is over in Coconut Grove. He does single family houses. He also does condos. We're going to give you straight talk, local perspective, no fluff here. What's up, Daniel?
What's up, Peter? Happy Friday. Happy Thursday. I'm on vacation. I don't know what day it is, but we don't miss a show. That's kind of what we're all about. There's so much happening in South Florida real estate that if we miss a show, then our next show is going to be like 2.5 hours long. And who wants to look at our ugly mugs for 2.5 hours? Or listen to us if you're on your way home. We are live on Substack because Peter insisted. He's got a lot of loyal followers. I wish I had as many loyal followers on Substack as you do, Peter, but I will get there. In any event, this is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is episode 18. We've been at this for almost half a year now, Peter. It's getting kind of crazy, kind of serious, this relationship
Well
that we
done.
have. Yeah, man. I love this. But if you are just joining us, the format of our show is pretty straightforward. You see here, we got a rundown. What's that? It's 5 topics that Peter and I have been butting heads against back and forth for the last few days, and we're going to talk about them. We've allocated about 7 minutes to each one. If we go a little bit over, that's okay because you're here for 60. So with that, let's jump right into it, Peter. Buy the Fed, sell the hype, hold for the data. There was some news that came out, well, what is it, Thursday today, Tuesday, yesterday, about Jerome Powell and the Seven Dwarves. I had to look it up. There actually are several other governors, and I was just so happy when those numbers matched up together.
So, like we've been discussing all summer, the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the United States, is run by a gentleman called Jerome Powell. This point forward, I'm going to reference him as Old Man Powell. So, Old Man Powell's been running the Federal Reserve for this is his second term. He was appointed by President Donald Trump during the first Trump administration. Jerome Powell, Old Man Powell, he got pressure to cut interest rates. Why? Because Donald Trump is a developer. He's a condo developer. He builds other stuff, but basically he's a developer at heart. And Donald Trump knows, and we all know that when you cut interest rates, housing activity goes up. And when you raise interest rates, housing activity goes down. The problem is we had a little thing in between, and that was called the pandemic. And because of the pandemic, our inflation went crazy. It went to 9.1%. Jerome Powell and the central bank, they want to keep inflation at 2%. So they were getting close to bringing it down from over 9% all the way down. We got as low as 2.3. It occurred in April. And as a result of that, it looked like we were at the brink of finally satisfying this goal of the Federal Reserve of having 2%
But what
inflation.
happened?
But because of the pressure of cutting rates to bolster housing, which has been struggling, South Florida real estate market, at least on the condo side, is struggling. As a result of that, because of the pressure, as well as repercussions from the tariffs, we're seeing job growth slow. Now, we also got AI, which is eliminating jobs. We got companies like Walmart. We got companies like General Motors who are absorbing the cost of the tariffs. But what they're doing, according to analysts, is when people leave their jobs, they're simply not replacing them. So as a result, we have a shrinking job market, and the
So,
central bank,
so
they have
what
two
are you saying?
responsibilities.
So,
Well, the central bank has
because
two responsibilities. One is inflation, the other one is jobs. And unfortunately, we have what is now deemed a two-sided risk for the U.S. economy. Because if you're going to deal with inflation, you raise rates. You're going to deal with jobs, you cut rates. And now Jerome Powell finds himself in a conundrum. So what does he do yesterday on Wednesday? And the Federal Reserve Board meets. They're going to meet again in October and meet again in December. What does he do? He cuts interest rates by 25 basis points. So what does that mean in real terms? That means everything should be cheaper in perspective. But what happens to mortgage rates? Remember, Donald Trump wants housing to go up, and therefore you need to cut rates. So the Federal Reserve cut rates, and what happened today? Investors said we need more money to buy
so we
10-year
went.
treasuries. So
The mortgage
mortgage
rate
rates
went
have
up
gone
what
up.
10 basis points. Just
Well,
that,
more
even before the news came out, the idea that he would lower rates by at least a quarter point, which I know we talked about last week. Some people were calling for 75 BPs, right? BIPs, basis
yep,
points, which is
yep.
3/4 of a percentage, guys. So just the market's irrational, right? And so the market will react based on news, and then the action happens, and then it's kind of like a deflated balloon. Or in this case, not a deflated balloon at all. It went the other way.
It went the other way, and here's why it went the other way. It went the other way because, like we've been discussing, even if mortgage rates come down, but people are afraid that they're going to lose their job or they don't have a job, that creates greater risk. So what we saw is the day before the cuts, and the cuts were on Wednesday. We're recording this on Thursday. It's coming out on Friday. So the day before the announcement by Jerome Powell, mortgage rates, according to Mortgage News Daily, were coming at 6.13. Jerome Powell cuts rates yesterday, and those mortgage rates, remember, this is separate from the Federal Reserve. This is what the industry, what they're going to buy the 10-year Treasury for, and mortgage rates are based off 10-year Treasury. So they go from 6.13, they fall, or they go up to 6.29, and where are they coming in today? They're coming in at 6.37. So we actually we're actually higher than we were the day before Jerome Powell was supposed to make his announcement. And why are they doing that? Because investors are worried now that jobs are going to be slowing, and if jobs are slowing and people take out mortgages, they might not be able to repay them. Therefore, there's higher risk, there's greater risk. So while President Trump wanted lower mortgage rates, in effect, what he got is higher mortgage rates because of an interest rate cut. And by the way, inflation coming in at 2.9. Back in the first half of the year, it was as low as 2.3. There's a gentleman who is a bond trader called Jeffrey Gunlap from Double Line Capital, and he's known as the bond king. He anticipates inflation will end the year at 3%, if not 3.3. And Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, they want 2%. So we're going the other way in both categories, jobs and inflation. This is creating what's called a two-sided risk.
And explain this to me then. Inflation goes up, mortgage rates go up. So new mortgages, will we see less new mortgage? I mean, talk to me like I'm a Ute, like I'm an ignat, right? Like the juvenile that I am, right? So mortgage rates go up, inflation goes up, so that kind of puts a lid on new development because raw materials are going to cost more, right? What about refinancing? Are we going to see a boom in refinancing? Because, well, we're seeing these rates go up. Did we bottom out, or is this as low as we're going to see them for a while? 4 days ago.
And that is a conundrum. The conversation going on right now, if you listen to any of the financial news, what they're saying is, how many more rate cuts can we have this year? They have something with the Federal Reserve, and understand the way it works. So there's 12 regional banks around the United States, and all these regional banks report to Old Man Powell in Washington, D.C. with the Federal Reserve. Miami is a branch under Atlanta. So Atlanta represents this general area. Yeah, correct. So they all report up, and then I think it's 10 times a year they get together and they decide what are we going to do on interest rates, because basically the only thing they can do is control interest rates. They either go up or they go down, and
right. That's the only lever that they have.
That's all they got to play with. They're effectively just one tool. They can do other things, but effectively they're just one tool. So the situation we're faced with today is, how do you kind of which is a bigger risk? I mean, this is almost like, we've been focused on inflation for 42 months. 42 months. We got to get inflation to 2. We got to get the 2. We got to get the 2. Come August at the meeting in Wyoming at Jackson Hole, Powell comes out and says, listen, we might have to do a shift because the job market is it's swinging. It's turning bad. And if we lose jobs, inflation theoretically should come down. But what we have right now is what some are saying potentially could be stagflation, because we got inflation going up, which means there should be a lot of demand. And we also got unemployment going down, or unemployment going up, but job growth going down. So in reality, it's typically one or the other. Now we have both. And the only explanation could be, well, there could be two explanations. One is AI and job elimination. And the other one is tariffs. That's why stuff is going up. Jerome Powell in his press conference yesterday, he said that inflation is coming in 2.9% or so. About 0.4% of that is related directly to tariffs. So you can see what kind of impact tariffs is having. Has it trickled through all the way yet? And they're saying no. At least Jerome Powell said no yesterday during the press conference. It hasn't worked this way all the way through the system because the importers, the Walmarts of the world, the GMs of the world, they're absorbing it because they don't think the consumer can afford it. Now, what happens when they can no longer absorb it because their stock is getting hit because they're not turning the profit margin that they need to? And this is where Jerome Powell finds himself. And by the way, this dot plot, which is what they call it, There's 12 people who vote every time these interest rate issues come up. I think 5 of them are board of governors, and then the other ones are
No,
going
it's
to
the
be
seven
the regional
dwarves.
banks. The seven dwarfs. Correct. So you give an anticipation going forward what you think is going to happen, and the dot plot basically it gives a point. Where do you fall in? Do you think we're going to have another rate cut? Do you think we're solid? Do you think we're going up? So President Trump's new appointment, because somebody had resigned previously, that person is asking for 5 more rate cuts. Most people are claiming 1, possibly 2 more rate cuts, and some are claiming nothing. We can't do anything else because inflation is going up, and they're primarily focused on inflation. They're not
And Peter,
focused
what
on
what?
job growth.
So then, what happens? It's like shifting the gears of a car, right? We were cruising, trying to tame inflation, and then we kind of redlined on that. So we switched it into second gear for jobs, and then they had to make that revision. Which I've looked into this. Revisions have been made in the past, albeit this is relatively higher than other revisions, but it's not totally out of control. Great cut, by the way. How many of those do you have? Um, so we've switched gears to tame the job problem. Can you do both at the same time? I'm not an economist. I don't pretend to be one. With that one lever of interest rates up, interest rates down, is it just a matter of how much am I lifting interest rates or lowering them? Is the increment, does that increment have to be 0.25? What happens if we make just humor me, 100 basis, not 100 basis, yeah, a full 100 basis point drop, flop. What happens?
Well, first and foremost, I want to give everybody a talking point. Okay, the talking point you need to know is during the pandemic, the thing we heard all the time, over and over and over, transitory. Raise your hand if you recognize the name transitory. Because remember, inflation was transitory and it was going to come back, and the Fed didn't want to do anything. And lo and behold, it wasn't transitory. It's still here. The term you need to know going forward after this week is two-sided risk. That means basically we don't know what the hell to do, and they are no that now they're going to be data dependent month to month. So they're going to try to play both sides. Think about somebody like who's dating 2 people, and you want to try to schedule one date in the afternoon and another one in the evening, and that's basically what the Fed has to do. So if one of them gets out of whack, they're going to have to adjust it. But the problem is they move in opposite directions. If you want to deal with inflation, you raise interest rates so there's less demand. People can't afford stuff. You want to deal with unemployment, you lower interest rates so people say I can get my hands on cheap money, I can go ahead and hire. Now
Right.
the Fed is saying they're going month to month, and the super majority of people are saying don't do any other rate cuts. Some actually call for a rate increase going forward because of inflation. So we have confusion across the board. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And inevitably, when you get a situation like that, you get what some would call paralysis by analysis or wait and
It
see.
just sort of
And
it
that might
does
be where
sort of
we are.
seem like paralysis by analysis because you can't when he lowered rates by 25 bips last December did nothing really. I mean
Nothing.
when
Nada.
you look at the next 3 quarters, because we're at the end of the third quarter, but I'll let you talk about that in a minute. Um, it did nothing for my business. It did nothing for your business, I'm sure. In terms of interest rates, like I had a fine year, it was great. But the topic of interest rates did not come up with my clients not once. It was like it is what it is. It was 25 bips. We're going to get 25 bips now. Well, we got it yesterday. And so, look, I'm not an economist. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. But it sort of seems like, how about we just lower it by 100 pips, see what happens? But you're going to have to wait 6 months, 8 months for everything to play out. You can't lower it by 25, 25, 25, 25 over a course of a 4 month period and to say, well, it didn't do anything. Well, A, you didn't wait long enough, and B, you didn't really do much.
And this is the challenge. We're living in a time when everything is rapid response. We
Yeah,
need
it's
immediate gratification.
nanoseconds. Yeah, because you want a press release. I
You
get
want a
it.
press release,
I
and
didn't. We
and
shouldn't know
more
who this guy
importantly,
is.
you're going to be coming up with midterm elections. So
Oh
if you
man,
just fast forward
that's gonna
out,
be so much fun. Hey, we got to buy, sell, hold on it though. So we buying the
Um,
Fed, we buying the drop, are we selling the hype, or are we holding for more data?
I'm buying the Fed on them being stalwart, on them being steadfast, and them not chasing after FOMO and not chasing after YOLO. They're just
I mean,
grinding it out as much as
Jerry,
the influence is.
Jerome, I'm gonna call him Jerry. You call him Old Man Powell. He probably hates both of those names, but I'm buying with Jerry. I think he's he's doing the best he can, and the reality is that he's only going to be in the job for the next 9 months anyway, less.
But remember though, remember once he's out of the role of the
He's
chairman,
still a
he
governor.
then still sits on the board. He still
Yeah,
sits on the
yeah,
board.
yeah, sure. But somebody else is going to be the chair, and arguably the chair has influence over the other governors. Yada yada yada.
But on that point though, think about it. Jerome Powell cut rates. Okay, he didn't cut rates, but everybody voted. But he cut rates, and what did the bond market do? It did exactly what James Carville, the Democratic strategist, said way back in the day. When I die and I want to come back, I want to come back as the bond market because I don't have to pay attention to anything else.
I do
I get
whatever
to
I
make my
want.
own decisions. And the
All right,
market is listening to what Powell is saying, and they're not listening to the nonsense. And that's why mortgage rates went up with 10-year Treasury.
all right, we're buying it. On to the next one. Hey Peter, you ever heard of these condo cruises? You had. We were talking about it right before the show, but they've been in the news more and more recently. Anybody not from South Florida who's watching, we are the home of cruise ships between us and Port Everglades, up in Fort Lauderdale for like the really really big ships. Not even a giant duffel bag full of money or duffel bags full of money or cruise ships full of money could have convinced the county to further dredge Port Dodge Island, Port of Miami, but never say never. I feel like I'm rambling. Am I rambling? Peter, would you, which is what this story is about, rent a cabin on a cruise ship on a month to month basis?
I absolutely would. I think it's great value. If you look at what it costs to rent a place in South Florida or to own a place in South Florida, if I could
3K
then
for a
get on a
bedroom.
cruise ship, if I could get on a cruise ship and I got my food, granted it's small, cramped style, I could make a go of it. I mean, think about it. When Jacksonville held the Super Bowl a couple years back, what did they do? They didn't have enough hotel rooms. They simply brought in cruise ships, and the
Is that what
accommodations
they
for the
did,
Super
really?
Bowl cruise ships. What was it? St. John's River. Yeah, they brought them in,
No
and that's how they
shit.
dealt with this lack of hotel space. Now, I would totally live on a cruise ship. I've been on cruises quite a lot. I love the ability of constantly being able to move. I love how it's all minimalistic. I know I would do it in a second. And what
Okay.
did you say? $3 grand a month, $100
Yeah.
a day, dude, all in.
So I'm gonna give you some facts though, and maybe I can change your mind about this. So the
Okay.
company in question, it's called Villa V Residences, residential cruise line based in Pembroke Pines. Now on the Villa V Odyssey, you it started as a like you had to buy the condo. I guess it was deeded. I don't know what the legal age was, but now you can get an inside villa. So that's just like literally a utility closet. Um, for $299 per person, like $2,999, $2,999 per person per month for an inside villa. Ocean views staterooms start at $3,500, and then there's a rent to own feature that allows 500 of those dollars to go towards the future purchase of a permanent villa. Doesn't sound crazy until you start farting around and then you see this story that came out. Actually, let me do the old screen share because I know everybody loves a screen share with the gang. Woman who sold possessions for World Cruise removed from Belfast dock ship for negative messages. That ship that you see there, Peter, is one of the same, the Villa V Odyssey. Um, it got, it's a ship. It breaks down, so it got stuck in Belfast for 3 months, and I guess this worrywart was talking bad things about the cruise, and very much like an HOA, could be compared to a fascist organization, but they kicked her out. They threw her off the ship. They said, "You got to shut up. You got to go. We're Jimmy Kimmeling you. You're out." So with that in mind, and I mean, if an HOA, if you are so awful and an HOA forces you to sell your unit, which I don't think they can. They got to live with you, and that's part of the thing about living in a condo. But if you get kicked off a ship, where do you go? Hey, we're docked in Perth, least accessible large city on the planet, Perth. What do you
You know,
do?
I worked in Perth. You know that.
You worked in Perth?
I worked in Perth. Yeah, I worked in Australia, and I had a skilled labor visa, and yeah, I worked for the health department in Perth, and these frickin' Aussies for fun, they put me in charge of the fleet of cars and all the cars you drive on the opposite side. They used to love me, have to deal with these cars and go get oil changes
Get
and
out of
all this
town.
type of
You
stuff.
lived wait. You lived in Perth.
I live in Perth. Yeah, I lived off of right by Wellington Square, right across from the health department in Perth. Yeah, no. I lived there, and then I was a what they call a glassy at night for side money at one of the clubs. No, dude, I was banking cash there. You make
Wait,
so much money, and the
so
cost of
this is
living
how
is
you
so
got
cheap.
into cricket.
This was one of the reasons. Yeah, as well as Australian rules football. Yeah, yeah, Perth. But it's funny you mentioned
Ah.
Perth.
Well, anyway,
The
so that's why I bring it up because
Yeah,
it's quite. I mean, even for Australians, it's like a 5 hour flight if you're flying from Sydney or Melbourne, right? So if you
it's
get
isolated. There's nothing there.
there's nothing. I bet
Yeah,
it has
it's like
beautiful beaches though.
think about like Colorado west of California, that entire area, and then give it about the size of the population of Palm Beach County, about 1.5 million or so.
It's still it's not nothing. I mean, it's not a small town by any means. Um, all right, so bad example. Peter would love to be back in Perth. What about just like some random port somewhere, right? So they kick you off the ship, and like you own this thing. I don't
Well,
know
you
what
know,
the
I
legal you have no discourse. Like there are no consequences here. What I own this space? Like I suppose you paid into an HOA. What does the HOA cover? Fuel?
you know what I would wonder about is a where is it flagged? Is it flagged out of Panama or Liberia, which tend to be the
Well,
places
it's
that
gotta be
Carnival
because
and
that's how they're
others.
able to pay the staff 50 cents every 35 days.
Exactly. So that would be one issue. Another issue would be, I'm guessing as these new generations of cruise ships come online, where they're 4,000, 5,000, they have roller coasters on the upper deck and
They
stuff like
got
that. I'm
go-karts
guessing
on the Norwegian one.
exactly. So I'm guessing they're taking the old generation and they're people are trying to figure out what the hell to do with it. So maybe somebody's simply buying a pre-used cruise ship
Totally.
and they're turning it
No,
into
I
residential.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, but
You know the key is going to be I think the key is internet. If they have but now we have Elon Musk
yeah, you got
and
Starlink, you
his
got
internet
high-speed
service.
internet. Shit. Look, I mean, Peter, I'm on vacation. Everybody else doesn't know where I am, but you do. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and we are streaming 4K, baby. You
Brilliant.
look good. I have not seen your internet look this good since we started. I don't think episode 18. It took us this long, but you look great. Um, yeah, I think you're right.
Listen, I will tell you a rule. I'll tell you a rule. When I travel, my budget and maybe I need to adjust it because of inflation. My budget is always $100 a day all in. So if I'm going someplace for 30 days, airfare, food, everything, $100 a day. So with this cruise ship, I could totally do it. If you don't care about the destination, if you want to constantly be in motion, to
Yeah,
me, it
but
would
by the
sound like a
way,
slam
all you're
dunk.
doing is sleeping in the room, right? You're out in
Or
the public spaces doing whatever you're doing, zooming um, at the
and you're
all you
always
can eat
popping into
buffet.
a cool town. You're popping into some
Right,
kind of port town.
right.
So
Um,
it's
I
fantastic.
think
Now one of the drawbacks of a cruise ship, though, I will say, is the demographic. They tend to be on the older side, or they tend to be balls to the wall partiers. So if you are trying
right.
to
It's
work,
either
you're
this
probably going
or
to need to
that.
be, yeah, from what I've seen,
It's like what the flamingo on the beach used to have a reputation for. Um,
100%.
I'm not a cruiser by any means. I appreciate that it brings a lot of commerce into our fine city. Um, but we live in the Caribbean. I'm not getting on a Caribbean cruise. That's just not gonna happen. And by the way, the nice ones, they're expensive, man. I mean, the Virgin Cruise, when they first started Virgin Cruise, they thought there was such a market for it. I remember it was going to be 21 and over, and they were going to charge these exorbitant prices. The prices are still exorbitant, but now it's 18 and over. So I guess wealthy people can bring their, children, or late teen children. But I go on a cruise to somewhere where I I have to see it from the water, or I'm not going to go there and rent a house for a week. Like the fjords, I think is something cool. Alaska, I'm not going to rent a house in Alaska, but to
I
pay,
did
I don't.
one. Yeah, I did one. I flew into Rio and I went down to Cape Horn, which is the tip
That's
of South
cool.
America,
An Antarctica
and then
thing where
over
you
to Chile. Yeah.
and if you cross Drake's Passage, which is that perilous
Yep.
width of
Yep.
water
Yep.
between Antarctica and the bottom of Patagonia. What's that town there? Ushuaia. I
Ushuaia. Yep.
I'd do that. I'd go through the Panama Canal because how cool is that? You get to go through the Panama Canal. Who gets to do that?
Yep.
All right. Um, but the concept of this,
I like it. I'm a buy.
you're a buy, not for me. I do like your idea though of you gotta do something with these old ships. I mean, it seems like every year they're releasing another generation of ships that hold an extra 1,000 passengers. So I mean, what are they just junking these ships? If they're not, if all these ships previously would have gotten junked, then if from an environmental perspective, from a commerce perspective, I see that. I'm a buy with that in mind. I'm a buy. All right, moving along, moving along, moving along. Too much inspection. Can you have too much of a good thing? Buy the protection or sell the panic. This one is about a lot of. You sent me one this week. I saw another one my buddy sent me last night saying we gotta find a new place for lunch. But folks, there are health inspectors, right? Everybody's got health inspectors. I love a good health inspection. Every 6 months I get my teeth cleaned. When you turn 40 or 50, you gotta get your yeah with that too. But restaurants, and by the way, folks, if you know anybody that owns a restaurant, they will tell you it happens. There's you got food, you got new food, old food, bags of food, massive amounts of food. You get critters. It's just a thing, and we live in a tropical environment, so you got critters looking for moisture. They like humidity. Their sensors have humidity. I'm really talking about roaches, guys. But if you go to urban places like New York or Washington D.C., it's even crazier because there's just so many people living in a small space. You go to New York City, there's trash on the streets for multiple days. You don't think there's going to be rats and rodents, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but here in Miami, we have all of this. Um, and yes, you're going to have health code violations in restaurants. And here's a but, and this is what really irks me, and this is why I wanted to bring it up today. Now with TikTok and Instagram and everybody being able to go live, I don't have to wait until the neighbors section comes in on Sunday or Tuesday or whenever it comes on the Miami Herald and flip through and see like, XYZ restaurant got a health code violation. It comes up on my iPhone, and it's usually recently I've seen it. These health inspectors come in the middle of a Friday or Saturday night dinner rush to shut down a restaurant, and that is so. I'm not even gonna pardon my French. That is fucked up. That is fucked up with a capital Fuck. These are business owners, tax-paying small businesses in our community dealing with an inevitability in their business, right? They do the best they can. They have clean bathrooms. You got a clean bathroom. You're making an effort. But you got rodent droppings and crap. All right. Well, you know what, health inspectors? Let me save you some time. Why don't you go work when you should be working at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday when there aren't any patrons inside, and then you go shut down the restaurant if you got to shut down the restaurant. But to go into a restaurant at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night when you got 100 covers trying to have dinner, and then they're gonna go tell all their friends, and then that restaurant is so screwed. I mean, it's it breaks my heart. It's awful, especially, and you brought it up in light of what Joe Blow just went through on account of our taxpayer dollars to pay for his legal fees with Billy Fuller and the ball and chain folks over on 8th Street. Like, guys, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
excessive power sometimes when government services are used to intimidate and or to damage reputation. Now, it's one thing if there's all kinds of problems and there's been people calling up and complaining, and then you would
But
imagine
that's
you would
that's
expect
that's
the
enforcement,
inspectors to come in.
right? Right,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
enforcement.
exactly.
That is somebody, that is a department, and I've learned about this because I've been dealing with some things on my end, right? But but there's an investigation department, right? So if I call, then that goes to a department that investigates that issue. But it's not just like some guy driving around saying like, "Hey, I'm going to get this guy right now." That's a mandate from a superior, from a protocol. But who wants to be working at 9:30 on a Saturday night if they don't have to be? Nobody's driving around in their inspector car and going into a restaurant at 9:30 at night on a Saturday unless somebody told them to. And with everything going on in this town, for that silly garbage to be going on, it just makes me want to vote every single one of them out. Involved, not involved. What's happening with the election, by the way? Is that? I mean, I've been out of town.
For the Miami City Commission, yeah, yeah, they are going to have an election in November.
So they're not getting their red flag year, their red
Yeah,
shirt year.
no, 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 no. From the last I heard, I'm sure there's an appeal to the appeal to the appeal, but thus far it seems as
This
if
is
the
my thing.
election's going to
Why
go.
would you appeal that if you weren't just a power hungry asshole? It's like, oh,
Listen,
judge says no.
seems
Okay,
to be a
like,
lot of that.
yeah, like
Yeah,
if a judge says no, that's like that's like saying you have divorced parents and then you go ask your mom for something. She says no, and then so you go ask your dad, and you know they're not communicating, and he'll say yes and she'll say no, and then all hell breaks loose. But for it to happen in government, and I understand that it does, it makes it tough to be a faithful constituent when you
well,
see all this tomfoolery happening.
I got a question for you. So during the pandemic, everybody bent over backwards to try to preserve the restaurants. We had PPP money. Remember when the money was given out to
Oh
employers
yeah,
to maintain the infrastructure? So
and
how do
people
you
who
go from a
weren't.
climate where the restaurants are critical to the community, the lifeblood, the culture, to suddenly this situation where they're basically getting shaken down. Now, granted, if they've done something wrong, I got no problem with it. But if it is done for power or to sort of exercise control over somebody, maybe for political reasons or maybe for whatever other kind of reasons, that's where I think it definitely crosses the line. But how do we do that in the course of 5 years? How do we go from we need to save these restaurants, or people are giving extra tips, they're ordering stuff because they want to make sure the restaurant's around, to now suddenly these restaurants, they're way out of line and they need to be brought down and they need to bend the knee. That's the part I don't understand where the change occurred.
There's a variable here that we're missing, and I would garner to guess that it has something to do with some political infighting at City Hall. Um, because
City
you're
Hall,
right,
no way.
this makes no sense, dude. And you're right.
No.
For this shift to happen so quickly, um, or one could say that kind of like we were talking about with the interest rates, people's attention spans are measured in nanoseconds. Oh, we
Yeah.
forgot. We feel so bad for these restaurants. Oh, wait. And I'm going to use your line. We can go twerk on a police car now? Restaurant, whatever. Uber Eats. I'm going to Uber Eats from now on. You remember people were ordering their groceries from restaurants to keep restaurants alive? I have a friend who's a restaurant owner
Yeah.
who bought $2,000 in meals in advance, just like gave her a check for 2 grand and said, I might get these meals, I might not. But just here's 2 grand. Like think of it as a payment in advance. And actually, not now that I say that, I was reading something the other day. Was I reading it? God, I hate it when this happens. I think I even saw it on TikTok. This is crazy. Um, in China, it's like opposite credit. People prepay for services. So like how you buy gym classes, right? Like you buy a class pass for $400, $40 a class, and you go and do that. Nobody should be paying $40 for any gym class. You should just go for a walk or a run. But Miami. Um, and then you'll get like 2 classes for free rather than putting like a class on your credit card, a class on your credit card, a class on your credit card. But yeah, tangent. But the restaurant thing is sad, especially in Miami, which is an economy that very much relies on their restaurants. The restaurants employ a lot of people. What happens when these restaurants have to close for health code violations? These are hourly employees. They don't get furloughed with health care.
Now, anybody out there who's listening, they're going to say, "Well, but you want dirty restaurants?" No, we're not talking about dirty restaurants. I think we're talking
No.
about more of an orderly process. You don't do it at 7:30 at night. Maybe you could send in a spotter or something, but then you come back the next day. Because if if they're dirty at 7:30 at night, they're probably going to be dirty the next day. I don't see how they're going to suddenly
Yeah.
once a big
Why
shift
is
is
this
over,
like an
they're going
ice raid at a Walmart? Like,
to exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's got to be a balance. There has to be a balance in this whole situation. And keep in mind, there's a lot of empty retail space. There was a ton of empty retail space,
there's
and
and it's not even like in the cheapy crappy areas. I mean, Miracle Mile is littered with for lease signs.
but then you throw in what's going on with the economy. You throw in the fact that inflation is rising. You throw in that people can't afford houses. You throw in the fact that the Fed's warning about that job growth is slowing. So these restaurants who are on the hook for big numbers, they're now moving into a phase, and New Times had a story about this. They're talking about how increasingly restaurants are taking the summer off. They don't even want to open the
Oh,
doors. They're doing their
I've seen this. I've seen this. And we do have to move on, but I want to make a comment about it. That's just an interesting way of saying, yeah, we went out of business. So we're
yeah, well,
closing for the
exactly.
summer. We closed. We didn't go out of business. This was a pop up. It was a pop up the whole time. It was an allegory of what a restaurant could be. Um, so we
It's kind of
opened.
like Jimmy,
Yeah, it's good. Like
like
Jimmy.
Jimmy
It's like
Kimmel
Jim.
temporarily been, yeah,
Oh yeah,
temporarily
yeah,
been
yeah.
suspended.
The show's not canceled. It's indefinitely suspended. Very, very thin line there. We didn't. We. I didn't. I never endeavored to open a restaurant. I just wanted to be here from the hottest months of the year, from May to August, and then close. It was just a summer pop up, guys. By the way, if anyone is advising you and you're watching this and you're a restaurant owner to open a restaurant in South Beach and the start date is like June or July, I don't know anything about this, but don't do it. For the love of God, for the love of your children's private school tuitions, because you might have your kids in a private school, especially if they're in Miami. Don't open a restaurant in Miami Beach and Wynwood, anywhere in Miami in June or July. No matter how good the lease prospect is. Otherwise, you'll wind up as being one of these pop-ups that temporarily closes just to never open their doors again. So with that, I'm buying too much, not too much inspection. I'm buying the God, I don't want to use the word, but it's douchey big brother overuse of power inspection authority. I couldn't be more eloquent than that.
I would be a buy on that. If that is the proposal, I am a buy on that.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, we're not saying it doesn't need inspections, but there can be an orderly way to do it without it being political
Yeah, just
and a
do
power
it
grab.
during the regular 40-hour work week, dude. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Inspectors don't have to work on the weekends. I don't know why they ever would. It's because those pop-ups are only open 7 to 9 every other Saturday of the month. That's how they're able to do it. And they charge $400 for a single slice of pizza. um, Sweetwater Rising. Peter, when I proposed this rundown topic to you, your eyes lit up, and then you said, "What do you know about Sweetwater?" And I said, "I don't really know much. That's why I think it's interesting." And then I thought you were going to say you didn't know much either, but lo and behold, you know quite a lot about Sweetwater. Tell me about it.
Well, first and foremost, if anybody doesn't know, Sweetwater is located in western Miami-Dade County.
It's
It's going
it's
to
where
be it'll be
Dolphin
north.
Mall is, right?
Yep. Yeah, a little. Yeah, Dolphin Mall is probably the best part of it. For the longest time, it was like an industrial type of area. But this is the part that's interesting. So it originally got going during the 1920s, and our next story, which is going to talk about Morningside, also got going in the 1920s. Anybody doesn't know, roughly about 100 years ago, we had the Florida land boom, and the Florida land boom is when all these, lack of a better word, fat cats came down here. They all had made money in other industries, and then they bought dirt, and they wanted to become developers. They wanted to be the Carl Fishers of the world. They wanted to be the George Merricks, Addison Meisners, those type. They wanted to make things going. So there was a developer came down, bought Sweetwater. Lo and behold, the Florida land boom ends. We also get the big hurricane of 1926, and land is kind of sitting out there. So a group of people get together. They all happen to work in the carnival industry, and they were part of what was called the
Like
Royal Russian
like the Ringling
Midgets.
Brothers,
Yeah.
like Barnum and
Carnival workers
Bailey.
used to go around. Yeah. They used to go around to different communities doing things. They had the shock and awe and whatever else went on to it. But this group which was known as the Royal Russian Midgets. They got together. They bought the dirt and they wanted to turn it into a little people type of community, just so kind of had their own little space. And I would point out, just ironically or maybe fittingly, this is an area that floods a lot. It sort of floods a lot. But if you go and you look at some of the history, the Royal Russian Midgets are basically the ones who put Sweetwater on the map. And now Sweetwater, because much of the rest of the county's been built out and or it's been used in some ways, now I guess it's becoming a popular place and there's a lot of development coming in. And you had a story that popped up related to Sweetwater and how a lot of developers kind of want to move in there
A
because of
lot of
some of the success.
developers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But when
So
you think Sweetwater, think the Royal Russian Midget organization. And by the way, if you don't know it, there's a carnival association or carnival like union shop, if you will, up in Broward County in Dania Beach. They actually have their headquarters up there. So there's something about carnival workers. And remember, Ringling Brothers started over in what is it, Sarasota. So there's something about this area where we
I
tend
didn't know
to
Ringling
attract a
Brothers
lot of
was
the people in
originally
the carnival
Sarasota.
industry.
Huh? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think there's
But
even a. I think they donated money and they actually have a museum named after them, art museum or something. I'm going to look that up while you discuss the story.
well, the story it starts off with Dolphin Mall. Obviously, Dolphin Mall is this huge super mall, which I guess I don't know how successful it's been from a balance sheet perspective, but it was successful enough that Mega Mall of the Americas developer really wanted to build another one out nearby the Turnpike, which I don't think is happening anymore because well, it was supposed to be open like last year. Um, but the other reason why Sweetwater's been in the news quite a bit is because it's at the epicenter of that Lil Abner trailer park brouhaha that's been going on with all these residents were effectively living on. They weren't when you think of a trailer park, and it's funny like gypsies, carnies, people who live in RVs. Trailer parks down here in South Florida. I don't know if it's because of Florida building code, but it might be they actually have to be like bolted into the ground. So there's nothing mobile about them. They're the size of a mobile home. They're prefabricated like mobile homes, but they're bolted in place, probably because of storm protection, storm regulations. Um, in any event, there's this huge swath of land, otherwise known as Lil Abner, and it was this mobile home trailer park development, permanent mobile homes. And developer comes in and says, "Hey, we're gonna get this whole thing re-entitled, and you guys are all gonna have to move." And all these people are like, "Well, shit, where am I gonna go?" Some of these people, I mean, and this isn't crazy money, but this is people's life savings. Tens to low six-figure mobile homes, and they live here. This is their home. They don't live here. They can't live in South Florida. It's just the land's gotten too expensive. And so over the course of the last several years, the developer does it in tiers. It's like, hey, if you sell your little plot here to us, you'll get 70,000, and if you do it in 6 months, you'll get 50,000, and if you wait till the very end, you might get 15,000. I don't know what the thresholds were, and this has happened over the last few years, and the community's pushed back against it, and despite that, it looks like Lil Abner Trailer Park is going to get raised. Now, what else is in Sweetwater? And I've never heard of this. And I'm a Miami-Dade County voter. Miami-Dade County is betting big on Sweetwater, selecting it as the home of its $210 million emergency command center. That's interesting. $210 million emergency command center. Because if you call 911 in Miami-Dade County, apparently nobody picks up. So we need a $250 million command center. To be known as the Integrated Command and Communications Center at Lightspeed. No, that is not out of a Spaceballs screenplay. Yeah, they put Lightspeed in there. So they started this development. It's a 600,000 square feet space for emergency staff and first responders. I didn't realize that there was a lack of that. We had a lack of staff, and B, we had a lack of space to put them. I'm not terribly well read up on municipal government buildings, but apparently there was a shortage, and they elected to put this in Sweetwater, of all places. Probably because up until recently, it was the municipality with the cheapest dirt in the county.
Well, as a thought, just down the street off of 8th Street, so Sweetwater's going to be to the north. If you take the turnpike, and Sweetwater's right on the turnpike, you take that south, you got the National Hurricane Center, and with all the layoffs that occurred there, why don't they simply just take the 911 people and put them in there because there's no meteorologist or
It
anything
would be
there?
certainly
Uh,
a
the,
whole lot less cheaper. Yeah, it'd be a whole lot cheaper than building a $200 million state of the art. Which I was thinking about I'm going to go on a tangent really quick because that's what I do. Peter, what is the etymology of the term state of the art? I was thinking about it and I just couldn't figure it out. State of the art? What the fuck does that mean?
well, it's kind of like Starkitect. What is the Starkitect?
Well, it's a star architect. I get that. Like you're a rock star, a star architect. That's kind of fun. And while we're talking about this, and we'll have to move on to the next topic to keep us honest. But I do want to pull up a certain star architect. You said him actually. You said it, and it reminded me because I wanted to show you. But now since everybody's watching, everybody's going to look. I'm going to pull it up on our old screen share here. You see my screen?
Yep.
So, I swear to God, this is important. That's a website. That is Jark Ingles, Star Architect's website. Big.dk, because he's Danish, Denmark. That's the top level domain for Denmark. BIG, Jark Ingles Group.dk. And anybody who doesn't understand the euphemism, well, I guess you just don't understand the euphemism. You should probably watch our show for the next 24 weeks. But yeah,
Hey,
that's
hey, I found that information. Remember I mentioned Ringling Brothers? So
yeah.
John and Mabel Ringling. Yeah, John and Mabel Ringling from the Ringling Brothers fortune. They have a museum of art. It's located in Sarasota. It was established in 1927 as a
They have an
legacy of
art
Mabel
museum.
Burton Ringling. Yep. And now, as of 2000, Florida State University took over the control of it. So, yeah, something about circuses and carnival workers in South Florida. It all kind of comes in
The
together in the
Ringling.
area that the area that the Royal Russian Midgets, according that was their formal name, where they were going to set up shop was Sweetwater, and now it's emerged where it is not only home to Dolphin Mall, but possibly a $200 million emergency response center. And for what it's worth, one of these cruise ships is north of $200 million in the Miami Marlins Stadium. The initial cost was about 300 and something million at the time, just to give you context. So this is like going to be a massive, massive, massive project, if in
The
fact it
Ringling.
goes forward.
What the? This is like some. You gotta love South Florida because South Florida gives us places like Vizcaya, the Italian mansion on the water in Biscayne Bay, which couldn't have, for what it's worth. Biscayne Bay has negative class when you compare it with the Mediterranean. It's just, I'm sorry, it's the truth. Um, but Ringling, the Ringling in Sarasota, so like Florida, right? This is not South. This isn't even. I wouldn't even consider this South Florida. Let's get real. But it has a museum of art, circuit museum. I don't know how to pronounce this. Kadizan, Kadizan, Kadizan. You got to try to pronounce it, Peter. I can't be the only asshole here.
Dude, I got no idea.
But this is cool. Why have I never heard about this? See, this is a learning experience for me, just like it is for everybody else. Peter's just the anthology of knowledge here. But we got to
No,
get back
I'm
on.
very interested in the carny workers.
Cricket
That's from my
economy.
Australia days, living in Perth.
Um, buy, sell, hold, Sweetwater rising. I'm a buy. They
Yeah,
listen. You, the numbers are there. I don't know what's happening in Sweetwater, but it certainly ain't happening in Miami Lakes. Um, we got 34 some odd municipalities in Miami-Dade County, and that's a lot of big projects going on in a a little West Miami-Dade municipality. Um, I just think
and
it's fascinating.
and just another point of reference, Sweetwater is kind of right next to Chrome, which is the Immigration Detention Center. Not to be confused with
Mm.
Alligator Alcatraz, which is
No,
much
but
farther west. That's
I thought you were going to say that it's so close to the arteries. It's close to the turnpike. It's close to the dolphin. Like if you
but
live
at
in
the time
Sweetwater,
though,
go ahead.
at the time that they put up Chrome, again, it's like when they put up Miami International Airport. It was a completely different area, and now because of the development, because of
Right.
the encroachment, now it all kind of blends into together.
All right. So we're buying, and this controversy is up for our last topic. Textgate on Ocean Drive. I'm actually starting to have a lot more fun with these rundown titles. I don't know if you've noticed. Um, I don't know. I just am. Textgate and Ocean Drive. So 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, it was the Nikki Beach Club, which is on First and Ocean, I believe, right there behind Joe's Stone Crabs. Anybody who's watching the show not from Miami, all the way down in South Point, you have South Point Park, which is a beautiful park, and then in here, all the beach access, like you have public beaches, all the sand, as far as you can see, the beaches are public, but beach access is private, right? So if you have all these residential buildings in a line, well, only the people who live in these buildings are going to really have access to the beach unless somebody goes on beach access and goes around the buildings. They can sit on the sand wherever they want. Well, if you go to South Point, where you have all these hotels and you have a lot of public beach access, there's a place called the Nikki Beach Club. It's been there for years. Uh, the operation of this beach club has been bid out by the city of Miami Beach for years. And the incumbents of this were one family. And, well, just recently, in the last 2 years, a new family had submitted their bid to take control of Nikki Beach Club because ultimately it's apparently a pretty lucrative business. Well, lo and behold, there was some, and I've already cursed a few times on this show, so what the heck, fuckery was about. Um, some text messages resurfaced because the incumbent family, and I'll just say them, the Penrods, they claimed foul in the bidding process. The city of Miami said that they submitted their bid too late, which they did. However, it was like a minute too late. And I get it. If you have protocols and somebody wants to submit a bid, you have to submit a bid prior to the cutoff, right? But that wasn't the whole story, and it smelled fishy when I read about it a few years ago. And now I think since the incumbent family, the Penrods have complained, um, these text messages have all come into discovery. Florida Sunshine Law. If you are a public official, guys, seriously, do not, or please continue to, because it's amazing for us to read this. But all of your electronic communication is an email away from me. Peter and I are happy to pay for it. We'll pay for it. You guys can just take all the little coins and crap out of our pockets. But all of your electronic communication is discoverable. Text messages, emails. Don't put anything in there. Or do. Because if you do, then we're going to get stuff like this. And Peter, do you know anything about it while I pull this up?
Yeah, to give people sort of context. So down there at the southern end of South Beach, when I got here in '93, you didn't go south of Fifth. Why? Because it was like no-go zone. It was real sketchy. South Beach was sketchy, but south of Fifth was terrible. So this group goes forward and they lease out the space and they actually create a jewel in an area that nobody wanted to go. A buddy of mine, he was an author, a writer. He was in Miami spending some time, and the cheapest places around were south of Fifth. Now it's turned into the
Right
most
there. Look
wealthy
at
area.
that. It's a great
Yeah, yeah. So
spot.
yeah, but the longest time it was no go. It was no go at all. When it was just the South Point Tower, which is this older building, there was nothing else around there. And so this family goes in there, they create the business, they get it going. They have a tragedy where the daughter dies. They rename the place after the daughter, hence the name Nikki Beach. And they
Wow,
build up
that's
an
the context that
institution.
I wanted.
Yeah. Now they build up this institution. Think of any institution wherever you live. If you live in South Florida, maybe it's like something like John Martin's. Remember that was the Irish bar in the Gables,
Yeah.
or maybe it's someplace in the Grove or whatever. There's these institutions that are just around. And now because it's so lucrative, a group parachutes in. And this group that's involved with all these restaurants and these, $50 chicken parmesan dinners,
50,
they come
50
in
a
and there's
person.
yeah, well, that's what I mean. $50 a person. So now they're throwing around cash. They're greasing whoever they need to get greased, or they're making people feel special. And lo and behold, they want to steal away the business, the institution, the vibe that was created after decades and decades and decades of work, simply because of some delay, administrative technicality that something wasn't submitted on time. So, dude, this is completely slanted. This is completely subjective. And if anything, you need to give points when you're evaluating these contracts to the group that actually set it up when nobody else wanted the hell to go in there. And this was a no-go zone.
Yes.
And South Beach was begging. They were begging for investment to the point where a lot of people probably don't realize this. There is a development. There's two developments south of Fifth, which is, again, high-end real estate. This is where you have Continuum and you have the
The
Milano. There's
apogee.
two yeah, there's two buildings. One projects. One's called the Courts. The Courts was funded by the city to try to spur development. It was effectively workforce housing. It was built. It's condos, but it was that type of because nobody would go in there and invest. Now it's turned into something. And what are they doing? They're trying to elbow out all the old school people who actually went in. They were the pioneers. They set it up because somebody throwing around some cash or greasing whoever to kind of make it happen. So this is complete travesty to take this away. It's one thing if the family says, you know what, we're done, tapped out, founder. One thing if she says, all right, I'm out, whatever.
It's awful.
But to go in there and try to, you're, and I'm off my soapbox.
No, I mean, you hit the nail with the hammer, Peter. I hate to see it. And we've talked about several municipalities today. We talked about Sweetwater. We talked about City of Miami. We talked about Miami Beach. It's all the same. Um, it's so much of the same. Well, okay, I got to give props to Sweetwater. Sweetwater's been doing great for itself, apparently. I don't know what blackmail they got on who, but they're winning bids for things left and right. Um, hey, good for them. We'll find out which municipality is really on the county blacklist when they elbow that incinerator in. That's going to be a problem. Peter, did I lose you? Oh no, I think I lost Peter. Shit. Pedro. Pedro. Well, everybody, I don't know if Peter knows he's in or out, but that is almost the end of our show. I think he's buying Textgate and Ocean Drive. I'm just going to do that for him because I think we're still streaming on Substack. I'm buying it. I can't speak for him. Who am I kidding? Up there he is. He left. Let's see if we can get him back. Peter, you coming back? He's back.
Yeah, no, I could hear you the whole time, but it was apparent that you couldn't hear me, so I came back in.
Well, Peter, if you heard me say it, I couldn't speak for you. You got to vote on Textgate and Ocean Drive for yourself.
I'm voting that they do the right thing and they give it to the founder, the originator, and let that cash go elsewhere. That would be my vote. So whatever side that's on it. Textgate, is it a drama? Yes. Is it improper? Yes. Is it unfair? Yes.
We got a green board today. And it's not just because I'm on vacation in a good mood. I do think it's not about agreeing with each other or disagreeing with each other. I think Peter and I have been doing this now. This is our 18th show. We haven't missed a show. We've had to pre-record shows because of planned travel, etc. But we endeavor to be here for you guys. I am so happy that technology enables for me to do this. Shit, I could be on a cruise doing this. I won't be on a cruise doing this because you couldn't find me on a cruise. Um, maybe Peter will be in Stad. Wait, there are no cruises in Stad. That was just the first thing I came up with. But I think this is really cool that we're able to do this remotely, pre-recorded, unless you're on Peter's Substack. Hopefully, that little hiccup didn't mess up the live stream on your Substack, Peter.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Not a
We'll
big deal.
figure it out. But in any event, everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching a pre recorded stream on YouTube, thanks for hanging out. We will see you. We're back live Eastern Standard Time next Friday. I don't have a boss. Peter doesn't have a boss. We ain't Jimmy Kimmel. Can't cancel us. Miss you guys. Love you guys. Have a good one.